Good morning.
Good morning.
Good. My name is Darren D, and I'm here to interview a very, very special person that we have here as a guest for our special needs ministry weekend here at the Granite Hilltop Seventh-day Adventist Church. And we're so excited that Dr. Carlot Dorvé is here with us today. What an incredible story. I mean, we don't have a lot of time here, and I, of course, want to get into the interview with you as soon as possible. But in a nutshell, Dr. Dorvé was from Haiti, and he was born normal, four limbs, uh, and but at the age 4, something tragic happened, and he lost an arm. And he had to deal with that. And he's come all the way to the point that he is become a professional trumpeter, world renowned, has recordings, is on YouTube, has worked with many professional musicians before. And on top of that, he's also well accomplished to the point of education, master's degrees, a PhD in music. So we're not just talking a performer, we're also talking about an educator.
Amen.
And it's so exciting. So I want to get into the interview, of course, and you guys don't want to hear from me. We want to hear from Carlo. And Carlo, just give me real quick background. You were born in Haiti, as I mentioned, and just why don't we go right to the age 4?
Okay.
And real quickly, you had something happen to your arm, and what happened?
Well, when I was 4.5 years old, I was spending some time with my grandmother, and from that point, and I fell and I broke my wrist, and I did not go to the hospital on time. Well, many reasons for that, because there were different issues with location and transportation. And in different of those places in those countries, they use what they call natural medicine to treat almost anything. But my case was a little bit different because the skin was open, and what they do, they use a palm frame and then put different leaves on it. And I suspect, since I'm not a physician, that the blood could not circulate well. After 14 days, my arm became gangrene, and from that point, after that time, they ran to the hospital with me, which was a little bit far away. And when they get to the hospital, the doctor said, it is too late, the arm is already infected. To save his life, the best option is to amputate the arm to avoid spreading of the infection. From that point, I end up living that way with my arm. But one thing that was critical for me around that time, it's like, even with the disability, my mother treated me differently.
So your mother.
Yes.
Obviously, this is quite tragic.
Yes.
You were born healthy. You were born, quote unquote, normal. And now this tragedy happens. You lose your right arm. Your mother. Now, did she start to pity you at this point and say, you know, Carlo, you shouldn't do this. You need to be much more careful. We need to coddle you almost in growing up. Is that how she raised you?
Well, I need to explain that a little bit better. In fact, my mother, if not probably after God, one of the person who helped me to succeed, I don't know who else. She gave me a few things that I keep with me still today. One of the things that she gave me, she helped me to understand that I can accomplish anything in life. First, she helped me to trust God. And one of the things that helped me also is that understanding that nothing is impossible with God. And from very young, I can, as far as I can remember, my mother will pray with me, will help me memorize Bible verses. But at the same time, when they are chores, she expects me to figure it out, no matter how hard it is. She will just tell me, okay, when I get back, I need this to be done. I need this to be done. I need that to be done. So sometimes I don't know, but I know that I need to get it done. So that helped me to be more creative in terms of finding different ways to accomplish the same thing since I was very young instead of doing that. And if I need to be disciplined, she didn't make any difference to discipline me, the fact that I have one arm. In fact, sometimes neighbors will complain, say, well, why you discipline him this way? He said, no, he needs to do the same thing. Like everybody else. He needs to be treated like everybody else. So my mother never, in fact, if I heard anything about disability, that was never from my mother.
These are some great points we definitely want to unpack. Number one, you remember she had God in your life from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
She's praying with you. She's saying, don't just look at yourself.
Yeah.
Let's focus on God. Let's bring God into your life to help you out with these things. Second thing, she treated you like everybody else.
Yes.
She didn't baby you or pamper you. And even as a young child, you remember doing your chores, that she did not say, oh, do it like this, do it like this. She actually said, just do it.
Yes.
And allow you to figure it out.
Yes.
I think this is very important. Now, I have 3 children myself, and I've been blessed with them. And I do think it's very important as a parent to make sure that we, even though we want to protect them and care for them, that we don't do everything for them, that we don't try and figure everything out for them. I think that's very, very important. So for yourself at an early age, you already realize, I need God's help, but I need to figure this thing out.
Absolutely.
Now, at age 7, that kind of translated, I think, into your interest in music.
Yes.
Tell us real quickly about that.
Well, around that time, my mother did not have much opportunity. So one thing that I mean, walking in the street, sometimes I will see other kids playing instruments, and it's triggered me too. But you know, the second thought that came to mind, okay, how will you be able to figure this out? But remember, I was trained by my mother since very young that I can accomplish anything. For me, how I get there was not an issue. The first thing, whether I want to be there, I mean, to get there. So I decided after around 7, and then, you know, when I went to school, there was music, and I said, well, I would like to play the trumpet. I mean, obviously, people who sees me, I mean, the big challenge is like when people see you, they see your disability before they see who you are. And most people who look at you, if you have a disability, they only look at, okay, this is someone who has a limitation. And they focus on that limitation to the point they themselves became blind instead of see beyond your disability. And for me, my disability was never an issue. Unless someone remind me that I have a disability, I think about it. And I always think, okay, I just have to do things in a different way. So when I keep asking, they told me that I could not. And I get confused, literally. I got confused. I said, why would they tell me that I cannot play the trumpet? I keep asking why. They say, you have one arm. I said, but I can still play the trumpet. But the same question. But one thing, too, that I understood, most people will not understand your ability unless you show them what you can do. So I keep asking. My persistence led me try to show me that I could not. And what they did not know, the fact that they keep telling me that I could not, that create more opportunity for me, more ways to prove them wrong.
This became a motivator for you.
Absolutely.
The fact that they kept telling you, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. You have a disability.
Yes.
You are less than in many ways.
Absolutely.
All we see is the fact that you only have one arm.
Yes, but they don't see my potential.
Yes, that turned into a motivator for you.
Absolutely.
And how did that motivation translate into your music?
My motivation translated into music. I thought, for me, those obstacles create opportunity for me to develop them better to the point that they who I consider as blind could not see my ability can see it.
So did you practice more then?
Absolutely. I mean, my perception is that they give me a challenge and I see, okay, that person have 2 hands. Maybe they can accomplish that quickly in 1 hour. But I understand that I have a limitation based on the perception. Therefore, I say, well, let me double my effort. So when I was younger, I literally will practice 2 hours more than everybody else. 1 hour more. If I personally watch how long other students practice. I observe them. I see them practice 1 hour. I say, oh, this is my turn now. I'm going to practice 2. So now, those practice pay off very quickly because I started making more progress than almost all of the students in the school, to the point that those people who used to tell me that I could not do certain things, they start asking me to help my classmates because I figured them out quicker and know them better. So I end up helping people who told me that I could not.
Now, did you ever consider any other instrument than trumpet?
Actually, I did. I did. Actually, one of the challenge, when I was in school, when I was younger, they did not have enough euphonium, so I ended up playing euphonium for a while. But for fun, I would practice trombone. Now, for a lot of people, that will be like a challenge because they feel like, okay, trombone, you need 2 hands, you need 1 hand to keep pushing the bell. And I said, well, I use what I have to get where I want to be. So I will turn the slide to the left, and I will hold it with my little arm, and then we'll use my left hand instead of my right my arm. So, and later on, I will play a little bit of piano for myself, but not much. Yes, so the answer is yes. I have tried other instruments.
Other instruments, but trumpet turned out to be your love.
Yeah, trumpet is my main instrument, and although I taught other instruments, even if I don't play them well, because I know the techniques of them, but that's the instrument I focus on.
Now, you are a teacher.
Yes.
You have become a teacher in music. You have several degrees, including a doctorate in music.
Yes.
And the one thing that we had discussed was that God gives us many different gifts, many talents. But in your situation, He did give you the gift of music.
Yes.
But I think you mentioned and have already implied that it was your hard work.
Absolutely.
Putting in the time.
Absolutely.
In other words, talent doesn't substitute for putting in the effort.
Yes.
And the practice time.
Yes.
You want to expand on that a little bit?
There's one of my beautiful quotes since I enjoy referring to. That quote is from many writing of Ellen White, for example, that says, "Man extremity, it's God opportunity." I think for myself, I always have to do whatever depends on me for God to step in. So, and it's powerful too, because if you do whatever you are supposed to do, there's no way, according to my belief, there's no way God will not step in to help you to make the next step to go beyond. And I've used that principle in my life in almost in everything. I remember even studying music. And I said, well, if you want to succeed in music, you have to do your part. Yes. What is my part? My part is to practice hard so that when the opportunity comes, I can really use it. I could take it. I mean, can you imagine someone come to you, they say, well, I want to be a physician, but you never study.
Right.
How will you be a physician? But they cannot really just make you, by miracle, make you a physician. You want to succeed. You want to, let's say you want to be, for example, I wanted to come to university. And I told my friends, out of the blue, some of my friends, I said, well, you know what? I think I'm going to be studying music in the U.S. But they said, well, what are you talking about? I said, no, I'm going to study music in the U.S. They said, well, you have to have this, you have to have this, you have to have this, you have to have this. But you don't have any of those things. You don't have enough money. You don't have connection. And you don't have this. They think about all the obstacles.
You're not an American.
Yeah, I'm not an American. And how would you be able to afford that? And I said, no. What you don't understand, I have that unwritten code with God. Whenever I do my part, He has to do His.
Amen.
And He always do.
He does.
I mean, He always does His part no matter what. But when you do your part, and I think God will step in. And for me, that's one of the reasons I always try to go above and beyond, work as hard as I can. And then when I feel like there's nothing depend on me, and I start to smile, I say, well, God will open a door.
You know, your story inspires me because you're in an impoverished country like Haiti. You're in very, very difficult situation, family. Now you have a disability. And God gives us what He needs to give us. Even though we may not be able to see the end from the beginning, He can.
Yes.
And it's important that no matter what situation he puts us in, that we work hard in that situation.
Yes.
We do the best that we can within that situation, and he's able to open more doors for us.
Absolutely.
And before we come to America and your story, I just want to step back real quick and you mentioned something about your stepfather and how he contributed to you being an Adventist.
Yeah, when I was around six, I think around 6 years old, my stepfather met my mother, and he was a Seventh-day Adventist, and then get my mother to become a Seventh-day Adventist, and then we started going to church. Of course, as a child, I did not necessarily like the Sabbath that much, because you feel like you were restrained from playing. But things that I learned at that very age about the Sabbath was key for me to make my own decision and become an Adventist. Let me explain. I remember around 12, 13 years old, I started living with my aunt. And living with my aunt at that time, it was a little bit challenging because we did not go to Seventh-day Adventist church, and we started going to a Free Methodist church. And going to that Free Methodist church, it was different because they start teaching things that were different to things that I knew since I was younger. And one thing that triggered me was when they said the law was not applicable to us today. And I said, including the Sabbath, because Moses basically destroyed them. And I started to question. I said, well, wait a minute. So if you said the law is not that important, because that's what I learned when I was very young, we have to keep God's commandment. And if you said it's not important, so how come can we lie? Can we all do all those kind of things? But I figured out those things, those other commandment was not an issue, was the Sabbath was the issue. That confused me, make me more curious to find out. Out of the blue, and one day, sometimes out of the blue, you have that kind of burden. You need to go somewhere. So there was an evangelistic series that my mother told me a long time about. And I keep getting that burden one day. I need to go. So I decided I will go. So immediately I get to that church. Someone was sharing a testimony and how God did a miracle in their life, what God did. And immediately that touched me to the point that I start crying. I don't know why. And I said, no, this is my church. Why I've been going to other church? This is my church. This is my church. And I keep going to that evangelistic series. And then that's basically why I end up signing up for baptism. And I said, well, I'm going to get baptized. And then at that point, I remember someone, the elders, when they call people to come forward before the baptism, they usually ask you to come to present to the church and then ask you some question. And then I realized they didn't call me. And when they did not call me, my name was not in. And I started to say, well, wait a minute. I raised my hand. I said, I did sign up. And they said, and then they called me in the pastor's office. They said, well, we did not have a chance to talk to any of your parents. Therefore, we cannot really make that decision. And I said, well, I'm not going to live here without getting baptized. And so because I was so confident that I want to do that, the pastor said, well, if he insisted, we have no choice. So I got baptized from that point, and I've been in church ever since.
Amen. Amen. So another instance in your life,
yes,
where you wanted to do something, but someone was trying to stop you.
Yes.
Even with your baptism.
That is true.
So Carlo, this is not your time. You're not ready yet. Maybe you don't know enough. Blah blah blah. But all of a sudden, you said, "No, I want to do this."
Yes.
I think that determination is definitely something that has been developed in you over time, partially or probably because of your disability.
Yeah, partially.
So let me ask you this: how does faith in God help a person with disabilities see their abilities rather than their disabilities?
I think that's a wonderful question. And I'm going to give a perspective about me. Faith in God was critical for me because one of the key things that help someone with disabilities to succeed is the confidence and trust that they can do something. And most of the time, people around them who see them, they see the limitation instead of seeing the person's ability. So that lead to the person themselves to focus on the limitation, and to the point that they became blind of the opportunity that they have to be successful. They became blind to see what they can do. And having faith in God, knowing that you can do all through Christ who strengthens us.
Amen.
I mean, this is powerful. And one other thing for me, I think is in Luke 1 verse 37 that said, nothing is impossible with God. You know, that's the story of the angel who came to Mary, who said, and they said, well, how could that be? You're going to be having a child. I don't know any man. And the angel said, well, nothing is impossible with God. So let's think about it. If you really believe that nothing is impossible with God, what a limitation that we have can dictate our future, can dictate what we can do. I think having that faith, I think it's powerful. For me, that's what helped me. That's what led me to think that my disability is just an opportunity to do things differently that maybe most people have never seen or most people have never done before. And for me, that helped me not only with my music, that helped me with pursuing a degree, that helped me even in the trumpet. I should probably share that story. Faith in God, for example, playing the trumpet, I was told for 3 years and a half that I could not play. And I persisted because I believed that through God, I can do all things. And I take the trumpet and do it anyway. Things that I wanted to learn, for example, techniques that seems to be more difficult for people who have two arms. And I pray and I believe that God will help me to find a way to make it happen. And He did. So faith, I think, is critical. If you trust that nothing is impossible with God, and also understand that man extremity is God opportunity. So if you don't have any limitation, there is no opportunity for God to intervene.
Do you think your life now, with your disability, is actually in some ways more of a blessing and richer, and it has helped you reach more people to see Christ?
Oh, absolutely.
Than if you didn't have that accident happen?
Absolutely. And you know, the big problem with us as human, we see only what the society shape. What if being normal was someone with one arm? What if being normal was someone on a wheelchair? What if being normal was someone who is different than what we have now that we consider as being normal? But our tendency is to see, oh, someone with two arms, that's the norm. If you are not like that, therefore you're not qualified to be normal. And I think that's our weakness, that's our perception of things. But God doesn't see us this way. So if you can only see the way God sees, you will see the way you are. That's the best way you need to be to not only be a blessing, but also to be successful. Think about it. I know many people who have two arms. They don't accomplish what I accomplish in life. I got a PhD. Not to brag. And I have literally in a few weeks, I'm going to get another degree with an MBA with focus on supply chain and business analytics and marketing. Does that really define me because do I need two arms to do that? No, I don't. It's our perceptions of things. That's the way we see things. The good news is God don't see us the way people are trained to see us. So I think this is powerful. I think for me, I don't really think about my disability as disability. I think as an opportunity.
And that is the whole key here, is how you perceive what has happened to you.
Absolutely.
Are you perceiving yourself as, oh, poor me, I'll never be able to accomplish my dreams now. God may not be able to use me the way I thought He would be able to use me because I only have one arm. And the story that you have is so interesting, because let's say you have two arms, but as an immigrant from Haiti, you have not only an undergraduate degree, but you have an MBA, or will be getting an MBA, a master's degree in music, a PhD in music. So even if we just said you had two arms, you were quote unquote normal, you would have accomplished so much coming from Haiti, but you might not have accomplished this amount in your life had it not been for your tragedy.
I think my strategy is strengthening the way I see things. In fact, as I can remember when I was younger, it was when people put the challenge in front of me, I always see an opportunity to to make them see things differently. And people used to, when they see me, they look at my disability and say, well, it is someone who is going to be dependent, someone who's going to be relying on people to take care of them. For me, I didn't want that to be me. I don't want people to see me this way. I wanted them to see me as someone who has vision, as someone who can make a change, as someone who can influence the world to be a better place for other people. To be an inspiration for others, to go beyond the limit, whatever that limit can be, whether it is physical or, I don't know, the way people learn. I think beyond those things.
Now, I think you made this point already, but I'm going to ask you the question.
Yes.
Those who are deemed or looked at as normal, how should we treat or help or work with or support those with disabilities?
I think that's a powerful question. And the best way you can support someone with disability, especially if you're a Christian, think about how Jesus will see that person. I mean, if you can see the way Jesus sees, think about it. If you only can see someone the way Jesus sees that person, I think you will do more. You will not focus on how we human beings perceive that person, because our biases are a lot. We judge based on our biases, based on our perceptions of things, but which is already corrupted by the views of the world, the perceptions of the world. But Jesus sees you as someone who is beautifully made, someone who is wonderful. And can you imagine if you can see every single person with disability as someone that Jesus will take pleasure in, as someone Jesus will be pleased in, as someone Jesus will praise all the time because Jesus will die for? Man, the world will change. We will have a different world, and you will also give that person an opportunity to accomplish their dream, to explore more their ability. Because what turns people down is what people see of them, or what people perceive of them, or what people consider them to be. And because if I let what people think of me, I will never be here today. Because growing up, actually, not even when I was older, I remember I was walking in the street once. Someone stopped me to give me money. Why? Because they think that I was a beggar. And I had to stop them to no, I am not a beggar. This is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am. But the perception, the fact that someone has a disability, we think that person is dependent, that person cannot really do something. Think about anyone who is successful with a disability. It's because they give a chance, people believe in them, that help them to believe in themselves. Therefore, they put in practice things that they could do. Not necessarily the way you do things, but the way they know how to do it best. For me, that's one of the reasons I believe that even as a teacher, one of the things that is very critical for me is to teach students the way they learn best, not the way I know how. We are trained as teachers sometimes this is how we do things. This is how we do things. There's multiple ways we can do something. There's thousands of ways you can make something and then get to the same conclusion. I can even take an example of playing the trumpet. Not every single person, no matter what they have a physical disability or not, they cannot be successful if I use the same techniques for each of them, because they adapt to things differently. Even the way they put the mouthpiece in their lips is different. So you don't have to have like something that people can see to have a disability. Most of us have a type of disability that we don't know of. You don't know anything about. But the question is, the society teach us to see someone with one arm, someone in a wheelchair. It's different. And this is a problem. That's why I believe seeing someone with a disability as Jesus see them, you give that person an opportunity. I'm going to add one more thing.
Sure.
Tell me one time Jesus used someone that was perfect. Not a single time. Jesus usually used someone, according to our vision, that is not the best fit for the job. But for God, this guy is the best person for the job. And I think us as a Christian, if we can see the way God sees us, I think we'll help the world to not only be a better place, we'll help every single one who look different not only see themselves different, but also go beyond their disability.
So God has led in many ways in your life.
Absolutely.
Opened many, many doors for you. Helped you come here from Haiti, full ride scholarship. And that was in which school that you got a full scholarship?
I kind of have full ride scholarship for all my music degrees. My Michigan State, I got a full ride at Michigan State, which I also get supported by one of the famous trumpet players in the world.
Wynton
Marsalis.
Marsalis.
And then after that, I get...
Wait. You got to expand on that a little bit. What did he do for you?
Wynton Marsalis, actually, to give a little bit of detail, how I met him to one of his best friends in New York. And...
Because he plays the trumpet.
He played the trumpet.
Famous trumpeter.
And then the first time, I think the first glimpse, it's like he gave his trumpet to his friend to try, a new trumpet that he has. And then his friend said, "Oh, Carlo, you try it instead." And I was trying it, and then went and turned around. I said, "Wow, I like this guy."
Right.
And from that point, we make that connection. And later on, he come to a concert. I came to the concert. He asked me to play for him, and then he asked me straightforward, "What can I do to help you?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I just received a full scholarship at Michigan State, maybe with my women board." And he said, "Well, give me your address. I'll send you the check." He paid for my women board for my 4 years at Michigan State University. I mean, there was a lot of detail to know that God was leading in that step too, because, and that's probably for another time to explain that.
That is absolutely incredible. And in 2010, there was the Haiti earthquake.
Yes.
And most people are familiar with that. It was a huge disaster out there in Haiti. And so we should actually mention that. You felt that what happened at that time was actually a miracle for you.
Yes. I believe it was a miracle. The big challenge sometimes is forget to recognize that whatever happened in our life is not by mistake. Whether it is a disability, whether it is an event, or is an unfortunate situation, a lot of those things don't happen by mistake because God knows it all and then plan ahead. So 1 week before the earthquake, I was selected to come to the U.S. So I came on January 5th, 2010, and January 12th, 2010, the earthquake happened Tuesday by Tuesday. But the things that I believe that God was behind this. First, I was not supposed to come to the program that I came at that time. Second, the school that I used to be at is completely destroyed. And the time that the earthquake happened, I would have been exactly inside of that building, practicing. And there's no way God was not behind it. And when I came here to the U.S., I did not have any family. But one thing that I understand, again, my unwritten code, I have to do my part, God has to do his. And God really step in and do his and open doors. People come out of the blue and then ask me a question about Michigan State University and then connect me with Michigan State. And then they heard me play. They offered me a full scholarship. All those kind of things, I believe God was behind it.
Amen. So you have accomplished so much in your life by the grace of God. Amen. And you wanted to play the trumpet, and you're playing the trumpet. You want to accomplish all these wonderful things in education, all these degrees, and you have accomplished, and you're about to finish a master's and an MBA. Now, was being in a relationship something that you wanted to do also? Was that something that maybe gave you a little bit more concern, per se?
Yeah. again, I'm going to go back to some of the things that I mentioned before, because most people, when you look at someone with disability, they don't want to be that person to be a burden. I think that's perceptions. Not necessarily everybody, but which is unfortunate, because what they do, they look at that person physical or perception of people of that person, and then they make that person become that something that is not necessarily good to use, while that person have a lot of other quality and abilities. And you will see people, I experienced that myself. But of course, because that I trust God, because I believe in God, and I always believe that, if something doesn't happen for me, it's just because it was not my right person. And, there are some, I don't want to bring too much detail, but there was some situation that you feel like the person that you were with, and the parents don't want you to be with that person because you have a physical disability, or the person even doesn't want to be with you because you have all the qualities, all the good things, but the fact that you have a disability, the focus is so much on the disability, they miss out on a good person that you can be. And it's sometimes, a lot of the time, the best time they feel they regret it, it's when they realize someone else step in, they see you beyond, who see you beyond your disability, and then they try to come back, and then it's too late. And that's one of the reasons I think, for me, I did not consider them as a bad thing. I consider them as an opportunity, as a blessing, because I said, well, if that person doesn't want to be with me, let that person go. Right now, I'm happily married. I'm married with my beautiful wife, who, she is a physician. She could not be here today, and I'm grateful. I could not be happier with the person that I married. So
And tell us real quickly how you met. This is important.
Yes. So I met her while I was in a concert. I was playing a concert at a church in Troy, Michigan. So from that point, she was very kind and nice to me. So I wanted to get to know the person. But again, I didn't want people to perceive that I was being a creepy guy trying to ask someone out. And I told her, is that okay with you to add me on social media? So we became friends on social media, and then we were friends for 3 years. And then 3 years later, I was bold enough to ask her whether she was in a relationship. And then she said, well, I don't mind giving you a chance, but this is my principle. And of course, I usually say she write me a book. And we laugh about that all the time. And later on, I proposed to her. And we've been married for 4 years in 3 months.
And what is her name?
Kiara.
Kiara.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, there she is. Woo.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful, Kiara. Oh, look at that. So I think it's important to point out, and you were kind of alluding to this, that even when it comes to something like being in a special relationship, like you are married now, that even as someone with a disability, that by working hard and developing the gifts that God has given you and being able to do the best with what you have, put you in a great situation, that when you met her for the first time, you were actually in a concert performing. That had to help.
Yes.
That had to help a little bit when it came to, who is this man? Is he feeling sorry for himself? Is he having everybody do things for him? Or is he up on stage performing this beautiful instrument? What does he have to offer?
Yes. And I think she could see beyond disability. I don't think my wife ever really see my disability really per se, even mention it for a second, because she doesn't really like me for my disability. She doesn't like me she liked me for the person that I am. I am someone who cares about my wife. I care about my family, and I will do certain things for my wife because she's my wife, and I love her. She knows that I will love her, and she will love me. That's the question with disability. Disability is just, again, I think for me, disability is an opportunity that most people, if they do have a disability, they will be a better person. They will be better in whatever they do. And for me, I think my disability pushed me to go beyond my limit and helped me to be who I am today. I grew up in a family. If I tell you a secret that I'm the only one who even have bachelor degree. Not even mention I have a PhD. I'm the only one who have a disability. I use my disability as an opportunity. That's why I think disability is not something that should put you down. It's something that could bring you to go beyond your limit, beyond what people can see you, create a different picture of you, and give you, let's put it this way, it's a nice opportunity, not a limitation that make people see you as dependent, worth less than someone who has no apparent disability. Yeah, it is an opportunity.
Now, we only have a few minutes left, and I just wanted to get a little bit more perspective, because now you have been a professional musician.
Mm-hmm.
You are on YouTube. You have your own website. There's even a book that has been written about you, about your story, Trauma to Trials. I saw it. It's on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It's well reviewed. Now, as a professional,
mm-hmm.
do you find it still having challenges to keep the Sabbath and be an Adventist while being a professional musician?
I think that's a very good question as a Seventh-day Adventist Christian, and you find many challenges. I mean, for me, I face quite a bit from even from back home to here in the U.S. and school. I did turn down a performance at Carnegie Hall because of the Sabbath, and going to work for University of Missouri as a graduate teaching assistant and also assistant director of one of the bands. And working with different bands, for example, working with the marching band, it was very challenging because as a Sabbath keeper, I mean, all the performance on Sabbath, how do you do that?
Right.
But you face also the challenge whether you will stand up or do it because you're afraid that you might lose that opportunity. In my case, whenever you stand up for your faith, for what it is true, God opened more opportunity for you. I mean, I can think about many of them that I turned down. I turned down when I
Carnegie Hall.
Carnegie Hall,
Which is a highlight.
yes,
They even told you.
Yes.
How often are you going to get offered
opportunity.
the opportunity to play at Carnegie Hall?
and then actually I mentioned, I said, well, they said, well, Carlo, it's a one time of your life.
That's right.
Only one time. And I said, man, I understand that's really beautiful, but how long did he take Adam and Eve to sin to bring this world and this man? Probably 1 second, probably a fraction of a second, who knows? But for me, those things are not the end of the world. If God put you, for me, I think, again, those obstacles are an opportunity for me. Because when when I have those opportunities to keep the Sabbath and I stand firm, people start to know about Jesus. People start to know about God. People start asking me questions about the Sabbath. Some people never heard about the Sabbath. I mean, one last thing, I can probably share this. There was one performance that I was, something that I was supposed to record for the Paralympic commercial in 2016. And I remember when they reached out to me, that was from Channel 4 in London, and they reached out to me, and they said, but they give me the schedule. They said, well, the schedule, we're going to be in Abbey Road studio, which is a famous studio.
Abbey Wood, yes, in London.
In London. So we're going to record from Saturday from 7 to 5 or 6 p.m. That's where we're going to record the commercial. And I said, oh, I can't do that. They said, well, this is the only time we could find an Abbey Road studio. And I said, well, I guess this is not my opportunity. And then when I said that, the guy said, well, it's kind of tough, but let me talk to the producer. They talk to the producer. They make an exception for me. Now, that exception opened doors for me, people to ask, how can I accommodate you best? Tell me what the Sabbath is. Same thing that happened to me, not only University of Missouri, Penn State, and even in London, other places. So I think, again, staying faithful to God, it's an opportunity, not only to spread the word, but also for you to strengthen your faith.
Amen. And your life has really been able to show that.
Amen.
That when you've been faced with these challenges, these trials, that at the end of the day, you are willing to stand firm for your faith, for God,
Amen.
and He has rewarded you
Amen.
immensely.
Amen.
So we've come to the end of our time here. I know we can talk for hours. It's been such a pleasure to get a chance to know you and talk with you. And I know through this weekend, we'll have the opportunity to not just hear more from you, but have the opportunity to hear you play.
Amen.
So may God continue to bless you,
Amen.
Carlo. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Elder.
Amen.